Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing chapter 28.
But first, let's review what we discussed in chapter 27. So Amari was plagued by cramming, is what we call it, overstudying. And her bestie Elsie was like, I know that you want to do well on this final tryout, but you can't do it this way. You have to rest, you have to sleep, you have to take breaks. So she surprised her with what seems to be like a yearly tradition of trainees sneaking out and going to the All Souls Festival, which I really helped solidify that I would like to join the Department of the Dead. The All Souls Festival happened in a big field, and it's a chance for the living and the dead to come together, engage in some mutually beneficial capitalism, I guess. And Dylan, Amari, and Elsie hung out for a little bit, eating snacks and looking at potions and all of these fun things until Amari finds the Madame Violet tent, meets Madame Violet, the writer of the spell book that Dylan has let her borrow. She is no longer of this earthly plane, but that doesn't stop her from, making some bargains, handing out some reads as a ghost. And for a secret from a best friend, Madame Violet reveals some interesting things. The secret Elsie gave was that she knows why she has yet to turn into a dragon, and that's because she has yet to do something that shows immense bravery. She thinks that she's a coward, which remains to be seen. And then Madame Violet lets Amari know that she has been aware of her because what are timelines? They're not literal. They're not lateral. Linear. Thank you. They're not linear when you are a magician, and that she can expect great things. They leave Madame Violet's tent only to run into Laura, who fucks around and finds out. Laura decides to corner Amari with her little crew and tries to literally beat her up. And Amari decides to use some magic most foul and does the spell that turns Laura's worst nightmares into reality. And we find out that Laura's worst nightmare is to find out that her sister, Maria, is dead. Amari immediately feels awful because she sees the impact that has on Laura. Laura's friends run away. Elsie takes Amari back to the dorms, and that is where we leave off. And then we had a question, for our audience, which was, which department do you think Amari should have joined if she didn't have to join the Bureau or the Department of Investigations because of Quentin's disappearance? So we asked that question and we got an answer. Chelsea says that she thinks Amari would have been great in Dreams and Nightmares or Half-Truths and Full Cover-Ups because of her illusion magic. She is a great investigator, though. Just wish Van Helsing wasn't the department head. So
That's real.
That's real. I didn't even think about Half-Truths and Full Cover-Ups as like a magician with illusions.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, so. I don't know why. I mean, I hadn't like completely thought it through just because this week was crazy, but but like thinking about like where her magic could be best used, those are both really good ideas.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're always hearing about, it feels like once we get past a lot of the trials, we keep hearing about new departments each chapter.
Mhm.
Like even like now that we're towards the end of the book, we heard about another department that I don't think has been brought up earlier in the story. And she's like, okay, all right. There's a lot of departments here. There's so many possibilities. So I can see where she could be overwhelmed and be like, I'm just going to go with the one that I know I need to be in. Like, I'm not even going to play. There's too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still stick with the fact that I think that she would be a really good bureaucrat, Secretary of State. But I admit, and thank you, Chelsea, for answering that question, because I never thought about like what her as a magician and like that skill would be really good at. And because of that, I'm like, Half Truths Full Cover-Ups is like actually a really great one.
It's a good, for real.
Yeah. The Wall of China is 30 meters different, and she could just be like,
no, it's not.
You don't see that.
Paint an illusion. I don't know
what do you
about.
See? I don't think you see that. I think we're fine.
No, we're good. Nothing to see here.
Tight. So chapter 28. We're getting really close to the end. It's kind of like wild, like like how we're here already.
Can I just tell you that the action at the end of this chapter is why I do not remember that this chapter exists. Like I whenever I started reading this chapter, I was like, oh, this did happen. But when I remember this book, I do not remember this chapter at all. It's so short and so quick that I really, really only remember the end. I don't necessarily remember the beginning of the chapter.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like these two chapters, I don't remember if I said this in a spoiler heavy one or not, but I thought that like some of the events in this happened sooner. And so it's really funny to get here and be like, oh no, this is at the end of the book. Like in my head before it was like midway through. So that's also like funny. Just like how you remember things or stories and stuff. So it's the morning of the finale. Amari her emotions are kind of all over the place. She's excited about like, being so close to becoming junior agent, but also nervous about like whether or not this is actually going to happen. Given that we know, like, she's not allowed to do the show off her supernatural ability. Van Helsing definitely has it out for her. All them parents who don't want her to become a junior agent. Plus, feeling all this guilt about the foul magic that she used on Lara. Like she mentions that like Elsie kind of asked her not to do that again, but Amari didn't even need that because she had already decided like that's that on that. I am no longer going to be using foul magic. I did think it was interesting that Lara didn't snitch.
You know what? I thought about this as well, and I don't know if it's something that like maybe Dylan talked to her about or said like I will let them know like what you did, or does Dylan even know what she did? I don't know.
I don't think Dylan knows.
Yeah, but I do think it's really interesting that she didn't. But I think another part of it is like we saw how she felt after everyone was laughing at her about the spaghetti. And so it might also just be a pride and ego thing that she like got like basically her butt handed to her by Amari. Like she probably doesn't want to admit that as well. So I don't know. Or maybe she just didn't get the chance. And maybe she's still like struggling really with what she saw.
I will say she hasn't really been like she blackmailed Amari, but she wasn't like immediately like I'm gonna tell her or tell on you like off front. She's not like
she holds it to when it's to her usage.
Like, so I wasn't like shocked, but I did think it was interesting that she didn't go like straight to her dad. But also, like you said, like if she's also dealing with the actual like emotional fallout of what she dealt with, it might not even be on her mind right away. Like she might still be dealing with what she saw.
Yeah. I feel like the reason why she probably didn't tell her father is because her father's part of the issue. And if he wanted, like, if for her to explain what Amari did, she'd have to first explain what happened in the vision. And she doesn't want her father to know how she feels about him.
That's also real. Yeah. Yeah. So, all lots of reasons. It didn't
what
feel
else,
like.
though? I don't
Oh,
know. This is sorry. I just was thinking, as we keep talking, I'm like, I have
yeah.
another thought, but we don't. And again, this is like the biggest problem. We talk about this all the time about just like proclaiming something as bad and never trying to understand it, or like being scared to understand something. She may not understand that Amari was showing her her worst fear. She might think that Amari was showing her the future. She might think, you know what I mean? Like, we know what that spell is, because we were with Amari when she found out about it.
Right.
I'm assuming that she tells Elsie what that spell is when they kind of talk about it, but Laura may not know what that spell actually is, and so what she saw wasn't a foregone conclusion, right? So if she thinks Amari could have possibly shown her the future, then that's even more traumatizing,
right? And it's like, even if she got Amari, like, at that point, if she thinks it's the future, then Amari getting in trouble isn't really the like main, like, her main concern.
Yeah,
like, that's no longer the like the main
pressing issue.
Yeah, that's not the pressing issue. The pressing issue is like, oh snap, my like my sister's dead, or like is about to die or whatever. Yeah.
I also think like it was like I took it literally, as in like perhaps this is a nightmare she's had before. Like this is literally bringing up her worst nightmare. And so maybe she does know, like maybe she is confused, like she doesn't know if it's like true or not, but also she might be familiar with this because she like like the fear itself might have froze her in the moment, because she did like freeze whenever it started happening. But I think it also, like, if it's a nightmare that she's used to having, seeing it like big and like out in the alley probably also stirred up some stuff for her where she's like, can't be here. But I do wonder if that's how the spell works, if it literally takes one of your nightmares or if it's just a manifestation of something in your subconscious that you've never really dealt with.
Right.
Yeah. It couldn't take one of my nightmares, so I hope that's the case in case I ever run up against it, because I don't have nightmares. Knock on wood.
You don't remember them.
For you. I don't really
I know,
have
well,
them.
I kind of like, I lucid dream, so when I start having a nightmare, I can just be like, yo, wake up, or no, I don't want to do this, and then I just like,
that's interesting. My dreams are like, I don't have a lot of like dreams like that, but whenever I do, I remember them. And usually, but once I wake up and have like distance from it, or like, you know, the like my brain is awake, then I kind of am like, oh, that was actually ridiculous. Like, I think I tweeted about the last one I had because it was like some weird like cultish thing, and it like was getting, what was I watching at the time? I don't know, but like it was some weird crazy thing, and like people were getting killed, and I was like on the run with Giselle Bryant from Real Housewives of Potomac. So it was like one of those, and it was one of those things where like, so it's kind of like, it's not like lucid dreaming, it was more like things were going, I was definitely scared. Giselle kept showing up, and by maybe the third time she showed up, I was like, "No, wake up! This doesn't make any sense."
You're not gonna help me.
Like at this point, stop it. I think my brain eventually, like, finally clicked and said, "No, this isn't. This actually does not even like.
It doesn't make any sense.
None of this makes sense. You're fine. Like, wake up, go back to sleep." Like, so it's like an interesting thing.
So
like, there's
funny.
never been anything that's like, you know, held on to me and I'm like disturbed after. It's usually like, no, there was an element of something that was really weird in there that made me like click out of it.
Yeah. That's so funny. The only time I've had a dream like that, when I was watching, there used to be this show. It's Kevin Bacon's fault because I love Kevin Bacon as an actor. But there was a show called The Following. And I started it because Kevin Bacon was the main star of this show, and it was like, oh, it's a cop procedural. No, that shit was a horror film. It was the scariest freaking show ever, and it got to the point where like I couldn't watch it, and then I was like, but I really needed to know what happened because it was also really well done. And so I had to watch it at like Saturday with all of the lights on, and then I would still be freaked out about it. And then I started dreaming about it, and I was like, okay, no. It was like a cult of serial killers.
No.
And they were
I've heard about it.
They had
I've heard of it, yeah.
Join they had to like kill to join the cult. And there's a leader, a serial killer, and then and they were doing flash mob murders, and I just was like, it was like literally before Black Mirror, but it was Black Mirror where you're like, this shit would happen. It was too
right. You're like too real, too scary,
and then there were twins at one point, and I was like, I think Aaron Ashmore was in it too, so I was screwed. One of the
oh my gosh, I love Shawn Ashmore, and then his brothers and stuff. I'm like, but you can tell when they're whenever it's not Shawn.
I know that they're twins now, but maybe it was in the last like 5 to 6 years that I realized there were two of them. I was like, oh.
It took me a minute, like around the Animorphs time. I was like, because I think that Aaron was doing stuff too, and I was like, how is he in this? And also in this, I was like, wait a minute, no, there's two of them.
There's two of them.
Yeah. Because Shawn does more like
prime time.
Yeah, and like more like kind of like, what am I trying to say? Like general stuff, and then Aaron does more like sci-fi-ish.
Genre.
But Shawn genre, yeah. But Shawn is also on The Boys, I think. Shawn in The Boys, but Shawn was the one that was.
Shawn was in the X-Men.
Shawn was
sci-fi.
Aaron was in X-Men.
That was Shawn.
Oh, okay. So then Shawn just says like Shawn gets bigger checks.
He has the better freaking IMDb, and so he gets his agent be going in for him.
Because Shawn was the one on The Following, and I was like, I was so mad at him. But Aaron's on The Killjoys, so he wins. Aaron's my favorite. And he was on Warehouse 13. He was Jinx. He's okay. Aaron is on Sci-Fi Channel, and then Shawn be on the stuff that like be cutting them checks. I get it. Okay, I got it now. I
feel like I've seen. Okay, that's the thing about them though, because you can't. Okay, so I'm looking at Shawn's IMDb. He's on The Rookie currently. He was in The Boys as Lamplighter. I feel like I've seen it. He's been in, there's something called Quantum Break, and he was in that. I'm like, he does sci-fi stuff outside of just the X-Men. Like, he's done.
They both do, like, genre stuff, but it seems like, okay, Shawn has the bigger checks. Aaron does the more, like, niche genre stuff. Like, when I said, like, genre, I was thinking, like, you find it on the Sci-Fi Channel. Aaron be working in Canada. Yes. Shawn be going to Hollywood. Anyway,
Amari. Let's go.
Amari.
I don't remember how we got there, but that was great.
Just because the following.
Yes. So for the finale, the 6 remaining trainees report to the lobby at 9 a.m. They're giving a schedule to tell them where they need to be and what time. First is supernatural world knowledge, which is essentially, it's like they're taking an SAT test. Like, she walks in with an answer sheet and a number 2 pencil. I'm like, y'all don't even get a computer. They don't get no magical, like, practical knowledge. It's like very much giving, high school exam and
it's
AP
interesting
test.
To me how they have all these. I mean, I guess it's a standardized process or whatever, but like it's surprising. Like, they have the lucid dreams thing, so like they can put images in front of people's faces and test them on images if they wanted to. And they're just going to go to a.
I mean, sometimes it's easy, you go back to basics. You don't have to do all the spectacle. They did a lot. Maybe it costs a lot. Who knows? Maybe it's like a budget
thing. The reason that they give is that they insist on this is tradition. Like they practice on computer, but they do it on paper.
They're broke. They already ran up the budget on the tryouts. That's my headcanon. But Amari's hard work has definitely paid off. So she remembers a lot of the answers, including the same final question she had on her first exam: which 2 great beasts reside in the Atlantic Ocean? And the answers are the Kraken and the Leviathan. We had the Leviathan, like, that was confirmed, but now the Kraken is confirmed. Love that for us.
It's really interesting that they're noted as the for both, as if there's only one each, like, that's living. in the world, and that's what makes him a great beast. But I'm like, I don't understand that. Like, how can you only have one?
I mean, I kind of get it. I think it's like, I generally, when I hear about a kraken, I've never heard of like krakens plural.
I'm
Not
sure
in like the
there's
same world. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've heard of different krakens, but all based on like one kraken or one myth of a kraken.
I just don't know how that happens. Like, how do you only have one of you? You're one of one.
Maybe they're immortal and then they don't have to like procreate or whatever.
But if they die, if someone
But if they're
finds a way
immortal,
to-
then they can't die. And then if
But
they
if
do
someone takes
die,
them out,
then I hate that for them. I don't know. All right.
does another kraken regenerate? Like, if there's a loss, there's one automatically
Well, so now I'm
generate?
thinking about in Naruto, which I don't think either of you watch, but they have all these like tailed beasts or whatever, and the 8 tails is like an ox/octopus crossover thing, whatever. At one point, they are like fighting, and one of the tentacles gets cut off. And then there's this thing called a substitution jutsu. So the dude who like controls the thing, he substitutes himself to pretend like he's the tentacle, and they think that they have like defeated this big beast and take it or whatever. And then later he like poofs out of the like little tentacles. And now I'm like, if you fight, now I'm imagining like fighting the kraken, killing him, you leave like a part of his body to like stay in the ocean, and then that's where like the new one blooms from. But I don't know. I feel like the kraken would just die, but I know that went way over y'all's head. But for the folks who do watch Naruto and know who I'm talking about, that was for you.
I mean, it kind of sounds like something that could happen in Pokemon, possibly.
I don't know. I just feel like, sometimes you get to be the only one.
Special that way.
I mean, I guess.
Maybe they're homies.
Like,
maybe
that's
the
lonely.
the kraken.
That's what I'm saying. Hopefully they're
maybe
friends,
they link up,
existence, like, can you imagine just living in the depths of the sea? Like, everyone's afraid to come near you because you are literally a great beast, and like no socialization whatsoever.
That's how they become
company.
That's how they become villains.
Yeah. Or they're just homies in there and they like hang out, and then they're introverts, and then they like, okay, we're gonna hang out again. Hey, what's up? Me and my homie, we bye or whatever. And then bye. They're in the same ocean, you know what I mean? They're huge, so I assume they can travel pretty
I love how you're like they're in the same ocean as if the ocean is not.
But they're big. That's why I said they're huge.
Like
so
they're in the same country,
they're
and
big.
like I'm
they're not in the Pacific Ocean, they're in the Atlantic. That's less space. Not that the
Is it?
Than the Pacific? Yeah.
But like the Atlantic is like it has the UK, it has like that part of Europe, and then it also has like the Caribbean. That's also the Atlantic Ocean.
It's not big. I'm not saying it's not big. I'm just saying it's not as big, so they have less space to cross, and they're huge. And they're magical. So I assume that if they want to link up, that it's not a big thing, or they just they're like
they want to teleport like Lockjaw.
We said we were going to meet in the Bermuda Triangle. So, like, we said we were going to meet up.
Hopefully, maybe that's the answer to the Bermuda Triangle right there. It's all the great beasts. That's where their cons are. And they're like, if you come during con season, we got to get you out of here because you can't crush all of us.
Okay, back to Amari.
Actually, I love that.
I might have to write this.
You're gonna have to write the story.
No, for real, that's so funny.
But I was gonna say about them meeting up. Like, I feel like the Bureau are haters, and they would never let them just meet up. Like, they kept putting freaking the Indomitable Iceman back down. Like, I feel like the Bureau are such haters. They would not allow for the great beasts to meet up with each other like that. Because then they'd be like, "Oh, they're plotting against us."
No, can they really stop them though? Is what I'm
asking. But that's the Abominable Snowman.
They have the Abominable Snowman.
He's a great beast.
Asleep. Yeah, they got him in. But
which
he's in Antarctica, which again, Antarctica I know is huge, but like maybe it's easier to catch him above water. I'm
wondering if like messing with the Abominable Snowman messes with like global warming or something. Because I'm
ecosystem.
Like, how much money does it cost to keep that beast?
That's why they can't get more than
hibernating.
For the
It comes full circle. We figured it out.
That's probably why they keep him asleep too, because if he woke up and saw how crappy the world, he's like, nah, it's time for a freeze. Time for the big freeze again. Y'all made me do it.
Oh
You
my
made me do
God.
it.
So after the test, Amari and Dylan practice their steps for the Helsing technique for a bit before they go to the dueling gym. And then basically they all just have to like duel each partner. I guess it's a little bit different than it would have been if they had 4 teams, but they only have 3, so I think it's pretty much like they just each go up against each other. First they go against Zoe and Madison, which they, it's light work. They got that. The next one is a little harder. Amari gets zapped, but Dylan wins it for them.
And that was the hater Brian Lee is in that group.
Yeah.
So of course they took out Amari, but Dylan was like, whoop.
Yeah.
Teamwork
I think it's
makes the dream work and all that.
Yeah. They got it. I think it's so interesting that like, I mean, I know why, because of what we're about to get into, but the first 2 like parts of the test are just kind of like relegated to like these short little paragraphs or whatever. It's not like a big deal in this way, which I think, again, like I said, makes sense, because now it's time for the supernatural ability demonstration, and that's like the whole thing
why
where
we're
Dylan
here.
said he was gonna like Dylan said he was gonna give Amari his spot. She is nervous about it, also knowing that like Van Helsing was likely gonna like use that as an excuse not to pass her anyway, and like all of that. So that's pretty much, now it's time for that. Today is BNC's birthday. We're not only celebrating 8 years of providing critical and creative content, but launching our Summer Baddie Road Trip campaign. Help us reach our goal of $1,000 a month in Patreon support by joining our Patreon at any tier. We'll be celebrating later today, May 17th at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern with our birthday live stream. Join us on YouTube and then become a BNC baddie at www.patreon.com/blacknerdscreate. All right, so Director Van Helsing calls Dylan to the stage. Even though it's the final demonstration, the briefing auditorium buzzes with the sound of Dylan's name. So I guess unlike the first 2 parts of it doesn't really say if the duels had an audience or not, but this has an audience. It's like full of agents and junior agents here to watch the demonstration of the supernatural ability. It's not just like the instructors.
Yeah.
So Dylan walks onto the stage with a microphone and a chair. Director Van Helsing says that they can either display their supernatural ability first and announce what it is to the spectators later, or vice versa. And Dylan says, I'll be allowing my partner, Amari Peters, to have the stage. She has a demonstration she'd like to perform.
I will just say, whenever Dylan and Amari were discussing this, I was like, oh no, this could go off real bad for Amari if she steps up onto the stage whenever Dylan is announced. Like that could just have really bad repercussions for her. And I'm glad that Dylan did come onto the stage and set it up and be like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm ceding my time to Amari.
Right.
This made me think about like bystander training, like when people talk about like being like an active ally, especially when you go to like protests and stuff like that. And I was like, look at them having like a whole thought out strategy.
Yeah. I mean, I will say too, like, it's also very like, it is, I think it's good character or like, character growth, like character development too for Dylan, and like how he started, where he was just kind of like quiet. He would kind of warn her about stuff, but not actually like stand up for her, to the point where now he's like, no, I'm like literally, I'm about to come up here, I'm going to tell you what I'm allowing happen, or like what I'm going to do, and then not just like throwing her out to the wolves by herself. So so their shouts go up on the stage as Amari walks to join him. Van Helsing's like, that won't be allowed. Come down off that stage at once, young lady. Dylan and Amari smile at each other, and then Dylan dips. He's like, this is what we
Good luck
said
with
we're
this.
gonna do. Here you go. So Van Helsing, or Director Van Helsing, is practically growling to the microphone. I'll give you one more chance before I send someone up there. You will not perform that vile sorcery here among these good people. And I'm like, please sit down. Shut up.
Posturing.
Yeah.
But it's also like, sir, this is a Wendy's. That vile sorcery.
Like I'm gonna. Is my demonstration gonna be something where I'm like, do you think I'm gonna come kill people as my demonstration?
Right. If it was going to be dangerous, if it was going to be an attack, why would I announce it?
Right.
Like, why would I be, if I'm like, clearly the point is for me to like show you what I can do, not to like actively antagonize you. So
I'm trying to pass. I'm trying to become part of the department.
I want to be an agent.
Why would I try to become part of the department by doing something that's completely dangerous to everyone?
And why would I go through all these trials and stuff just to do it now? Just
if I was ready for it, I would have done it already. It's kind of the thing. If I was gonna do it, I would have done it already.
I would have done it. So Amari doesn't move. When she raises her hands, it goes silent. People cower in their seats like they think she's about to attack or something, which again, like we just said, does not really make sense. But also, you know, prejudice and bigotry never does. None of it actually is rooted in anything that
never
makes sense. No.
It doesn't have to make sense when you want to be afraid of something.
Exactly. Yeah. Get her off that stage.
It's the following. That makes sense. That shit is scary. Bring it full circle.
Get her off that stage, barks Director Van Helsing. She fills the room with darkness. Like she was practicing. Okay,
she was working her stagecraft. She was like,
drama. She was watching Homecoming. She was watching This Is It. She said, "Listen, let me perform for y'all.
Yeah,
I know how to put on a show. Okay, I'm hooked.
Entertainment.
I'm hooked.
Yeah.
What's she gonna do?
That's the other thing she definitely does like play that part up, which is like part of it. It's kind of how you draw people in and pull them out of their fear as well.
She's really playing on the fact that like magic is always been joyful, like in people's like experience of like, especially in fiction, it's mostly been fictionalized, right? Everyone thinks of it as a fiction. So to play to people's inherent curiosity about magic and just like the wonder of it all, like that's a really smart move to make when she's trying to make this point about don't be scared, like this is about fun, this is about joy.
So Amari tiptoes onto the stage. She says hello into the microphone. My name is Amari Peters, the magician girl. You guys have heard all about magicians, but most of you don't actually know any. So I'd like to welcome you all to a very special supernatural immersion class, Magician Edition, which I think is very smart to play it like that and a little bit petty, which I love.
Let me tell you where the curriculum is lacking.
Okay, y'all haven't actually talked to magicians, so how would you know anything about them? Like you go and you see these other people, these other creatures, and you talk to them. Like, you know, you learn more about them, and even like, you know, they were looking at a boogeyman who they eat fear, and y'all were like, I have all these questions I want to know. So like, here's your.
Did you know my cousin Willa Mae back in North Carolina?
Right,
like,
exactly,
what?
Exactly. Why y'all look alike?
So Amari first says habitat. She paints an illusion, filling the auditorium with a street in her neighborhood. And so
I love this part too, because it's like we see in the most recent Laura bullying incident, like her being like, can't take the girl out of the ghetto or whatever. And this is like Amari being like, this is where I'm from.
Right. And also, again, like, it's not like for her, and it's like a thing I appreciate about the book in general, like there's no shame in her growing up in the projects, right? Like that's a part of who she is. It's a community that she loves and that has nurtured her and made her who she is today. And so you get mad at Laura for saying stuff like that because it's disrespectful to the people that I like grew up with and who I love, and to the place that like, you know, raised me. But not because exactly.
But not because I'm ashamed of it, but because it just reinforces these stereotypes that I know to not be true. Are not wholly true, I guess, you know, like there are incidences, and, you know, her and her mom like have mentioned, you know, some of you know, stereotypes in general, some of it is based on a kernel of truth that gets blown out
Like
of
those
proportion.
stereotypes about rich girls who like to use her mom's credit cards and blame it on someone else.
Got him.
And
so Amari says, I lived in the Rosewood Projects for as long as I can remember. It's basically a low-income apartment complex for people who need a little help getting by. People joke and call it the hood or the bad side of town, but it's full of good people if you give them a chance. She changes the illusion to her apartment and has the audience glide through it like one of those virtual house tours on the internet, which is actually, like, it's kind of cool. It's, like, cool to see how, like, you use the things that you already know to kind of, like, guide what like you're doing. She she shows them the home where she lives, her room. She says, and this is where the famous agent Quentin Peters used to sleep when he was just my big brother. We would lie in here and dream about the things we were going to do. He made me believe I could actually do anything I set my mind to. He made me believe in me. So again, also, like, appealing to that part as well of their, like, you know, what is it, like,
empathy.
Their empathy, but also just their you know, he's a celebrity. Idolization of like Quentin.
Celebrities are just like us, you know.
Yeah.
I was thinking, so one of the actors in the film Moonlight, whose name is escaping me right now. It's Aaron something. It's his initials are AH. Anyway, he had this interview about Moonlight where he was saying the specificity, the universality is in the specificity, and I love that like quote and that sentiment, and I think about it all the time because I think it's true. Like, she's showing a very specific. This is her apartment. This is how she sees her brother Quentin, and not Agent Quentin Peters and Vanquish, right? But in that, hopefully, there are people in the audience, there are junior agents who are not that far removed from where she was as a trainee, who are like, yeah, I used to talk about wanting to do things. And like, you know, maybe the house is smaller, not as nice as mine, but it's just a house. It's like where families are. Dylan's looking at that like, oh, this looks lovely. This is like we're a loving family with like supportive
Dylan is probably looking at it like the way that Hillary Clinton looks in that apartment whenever she's in an apartment. Like, people live in these small spaces. I had no idea.
Like, right. It's a gallon of milk, Michael. What could it cost? $10.
Exactly.
But that level of this is who I am and my hopes and my dreams, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't look like yours, but really, how far removed is it? Our house is smaller. We have less. We want the same, you know. So I love it.
And then she says, hobbies. Well, I usually compete in the summer swim meets at the rec center, but I got a little busy this year trying to make junior agent. And her joke gets a few laughs. Somebody shouts, go to the Department of Undersea Relations.
Under the sea.
Which is like a good, you know, again, now she's having people who are like, they're into it, they're interacting, they're like curious.
But also, if the Department of Undersea Relations doesn't have Halle Bailey as Ariel as their entrance in their lobby, then
they gotta
things are terribly bad.
What are we doing here?
I also like to read books, the fun ones, not supernatural laws and regulations. That author should definitely be investigated for crimes against good moods and staying awake. I'd much rather read books about magic and adventure, though I'd never imagined my own life would ever come close. Recently, I've taken up another hobby, and that's practicing magic, which is mostly just me playing around with illusions. And then she shows an image of Elsie freaking out about the time she turned her hair pink. And she says, I think I've gotten pretty good. Tell me what you guys think. And then here comes the like drama and the theater in it. So, which I think is interesting. Like, so she goes from, and I did write like, it's a thing that it's like a thing that's had to come up multiple times in this book of like her having to humanize herself for these people and that onus being on her and how like horrible that is. I do appreciate in this sense that like she's having fun with it. It's not like a moment where they're like putting pressure on that. She's like, no, this is what I want to do. And then I also want to like entertain and show you that like magic can be a fun thing or like a cool thing. It's not just about like me and who I am, but it's also about like this ability is more than just bad stuff and evil. So I appreciate the like balance she gives it, where it's not just like, you know, see me as a person, but also like magic as a whole is not inherently a problem.
It's a tool, and it's like any other tool. Like what you do with it, how you choose to use it. It says a lot more about the person than it does about the tool. So.
I will say that I like to the part about the like no shame and everything too. I think that she's trying to play into like, I'm giving y'all the benefit of the doubt that I'm gonna show y'all this stuff and show you how like you can't weaponize my background against me, because I am not ashamed of my background. At the same time, I'm not ashamed of being a magician. But even though the first time I came into this world, I have no idea about any of this stuff, and y'all told me I should be ashamed of being a magician. I'm not ashamed of that, and I want to show you why I'm not ashamed. And I'm gonna show you with this magic. I'm gonna show you that like this is, as a 12-year-old girl, like this is, I like to doodle with my, I could do this. This is what I'm gonna do with my magic. So don't use the stuff that you use to victimize people who are from where I'm from or are magicians in the way that you're used to doing it, because you think that it's your right to do that. It's not like she's taking and she's putting ownership over it in a way that they've never seen before. But I think she's also giving them the benefit of the doubt that they will receive it better than they've been. Which I just feel honestly makes me feel sad for Amari, because she's 12, so like she's still got a level of hope and humanity that I think that we lose as we get older, because we just know from experience how humans tend to act.
Agreed. So then she puts on a show. She turns the ceiling into a cloudless, starry night and lets the aurora borealis glimmer just beyond their fingertips as shooting stars zip across the auditorium. She turns the room dark again. Suddenly fireworks explode and sparkle overhead, one after the other. Then the auditorium becomes a circus with performers doing flips down the aisles and trapeze acrobats twisting and flipping around them. Clowns spill out of a car on stage while tigers jump through hoops of fire. Then they're aboard a pirate ship in the middle of a terrible storm. People clutch their seats as the ships rock back and forth amid crashing waves that tower above them. I will just say that the Bureau is really like missing out on an opportunity for some like really dope VR. like
I'm like, is there a theme park?
Like, come on.
Somewhere?
Like,
come on.
Y'all decided all these magicians were evil, and now all of a sudden they're using all their powers for evil, but they could be using it for so much other like fun stuff. Like,
it is mind-boggling when you think about, like, if you guys would just shut up for 2 seconds and look at what she's doing. I have already thought about 15 different ways this could help you.
Right.
This could enhance your life. I'm literally wearing this shirt right now. Even though, shout out to Frank Ocean, because he hope he's doing well. It's why be racist, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic when you could just be quiet? And it's like, why be a bigot when you could just be quiet? Why block your blessings? Do you know how many magicians you could have doing cool stuff?
Because it makes them look mediocre in contrast. And it's like, but you're already mediocre, my dude. Like, just live it. Be like, okay, I own it. I am a mediocre being. This is what I am.
Mediocre. Listen,
yo, the power of being mediocre is such a big power.
Do you know what I have done this week? Nothing. I read. That's about it. I went for a walk for animals yesterday. Did I walk fast? No. Did I walk? Yeah. Did I raise the most money? No. Did I raise some money? Yeah. Mediocre. Hey. Look at me.
I was going to say something about the So like whenever I mentioned theme park, I immediately was like, yo, what if the magicians got in a league with the Sasquatches for real estate? And they had immersive rooms that you could go to.
Could you imagine doing an escape room with a magician?
Come
on. Elfie.
They're just leaving money on the table.
On the table.
Come on. Like, imagine a secret headquarters that was freaking decorated by a magician. Like, illusions everywhere, trapdoors.
One of my favorite things is, like, in the Star Trek universe, they have a holodeck, and it's just basically
the room from the
room of, like, hologram, right? And so they have these things called holo novels, and you become the character and you act out the novel, and then the characters, they respond to you or act you, because it's just a big, you know, computer program, whatever, a bunch of AI. We don't like to think about it too hard, but the AI is lights or proton energy. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. In this world, you could have immersive, like, movies, immersive, like, engagements, just because of a magician using illusions, painting illusions. You could literally be like, well, Amari and the Night Brothers is the world. You could literally say, Legendborn is my favorite book. And Amari could be like, all right, you're Bree. Enter. Go forth and prosper. Do you know how much I would pay for that?
Put me on a payment plan because I know it's expensive.
Listen! I will be in deep debt.
Oh my gosh.
But happy.
Yeah.
That is the millennial way.
No, for real.
Deep debt but happy.
Yep. Like, I'm surrounded by things that make me happy. Mm-hmm. Was I smart about my spending?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely. No.
So finally she puts them on a calm sandy beach with the sun setting into the horizon and says, the end. She sweeps the illusion away, steps out onto the stage in front of the microphone Dylan left for her. So she did all of that off stage, which again was smart. Like, she's trying to, like, you know, it's like, I'm not just gonna make myself a target for Van Helsing's, like, agents to come and grab me. Like, I'm gonna pop out, be like, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm going back to stage, and I'm gonna make it happen. But now she steps out and she says, Supernatural Immersion class usually ends with us asking questions. So here I am, I'll answer anything you guys ask. Someone...
And then Van Helsing holds his hand and he says, I have a question. How dare you? Sorry.
So then he said, somebody asks if it's really her this time. She says, yep. Hopefully Director Van Helsing will let me finish. It's Agent Fiona who answers and says, go on. So who knows what
She's like,
Van Helsing
He's
like, let her talk. Let her talk. So there are a lot of questions from Does using magic make you grow horns? Did Quentin know you're a magician? What makes you different from all the other magicians that committed so many awful crimes? The last question is the hardest, and she has to think before she answers. And she says, I don't know I don't know that anything makes me different from those other magicians. Honestly, there's a lot of being magician that I still don't get. What I have learned is it's my choice what kind of magician I'm going to be. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes and not be like those bad magicians you guys know about. I guess I'm just asking for a chance to prove myself.
Again, herself has been like the guiding star of her whole interaction with the Bureau.
It's that, and then it's also like
with most places, actually, with most institutions that she's been involved in, really.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She's 12, but I really wish she would have been like, you know what? I don't know, but I do think that maybe those other magicians might not have been so bad if they hadn't been pushed into the outskirts of society. I mean, I don't think she's
gotten there
things
yet.
Are not, you know, I'm not really expecting that from her. Like I said, she's 12 and she'll get there, and like she needs more exposure. But like, I will say, like, I would hope Fiona or someone is looking at it and going, you know, shit.
Maybe if we had done a supernatural immersion class before and like actually gave these people like
if their existence wasn't a crime,
like maybe they wouldn't, you know, fall to crime,
right?
Or be pushed into it. So Fiona calls time on the presentation. People actually clap. Not everyone, but some. She goes backstage to see 2 agents waiting. So they actually let her, even though they were told to go, they also let her like chill for a sec, or like let her finish. She knew she would get in trouble, but no matter how good or bad it would turn out. But she asked for a couple seconds so she can just kind of like soak in the
people clapped, people
the
liked
applause. Yeah. But then screams from the auditorium pop her eyes back open. Alarms go off. Agents rush past. Amari steps back on stage to find the whole place going nuts. People dash up the aisles toward the exit. Others climb over their seats. Almost everyone is looking up. And that's because there are 3 huge bat hybrids flashing long fangs. Amari's too stunned to react, but then she blinks, and suddenly there are 20. That is just, whoever is doing this, whatever magician this is, has no solidarity. Like, can you let her have her moment before we start like making people scared again? Like, y'all are out of pocket. Come on,
insane.
Get with the program.
Like, we don't do Drake here. Like, and I'm talking about myself singularly. I don't know how y'all, but because I different things for him.
We don't do Drake here.
We don't do Drake here.
We don't do Drake here. But there's this song.
We do like, Aubrey. We do Jimmy Brooks. Jimmy Brooks. That's it.
Yes. There was a mixtape he had that came out early in his career, and one of the songs was like, at the chorus was like, "Please don't be scared of me." And I feel like that's Amari's whole like thing. Like, she's just actively asking people, please don't be scared of me. Like, her common refrain is, please don't be scared of me. And then as soon as she ends her big please don't be scared of me presentation, here comes the big scare for magicians. Like, okay, yes, be scared of magicians.
It's just, I'm excited because we're now getting into the meat of the whole thing, but it is literally like you said, Bayana, like, whoever this magician is has no solidarity. And it's like, I feel like so, okay. This is weird. I don't know how to do this.
Without spoiling?
No, but like, I can't think of a better analogy, but like, when there is like a mass shooting or just something that happens and you're like, please don't let them be Black. Do you know that like feeling of like, because then it's going to reflect on like all of us. And you know that like when you go into like the wider world, they're going to ask you questions about it as if no one ever asked, and no one ever asked them questions about the
right. I don't stop a random white person walking down the street after a school shooting and be like, what did you think about
what is going on?
School shooting?
Right. And so it just gives me that like sense of like, she just really like laid herself open and kind of like bared her thoughts, fears, hopes, soul, and immediately it's like all of that goodwill is undone because of the like, you have to be twice as good to get half as much, and like you have to be excellent, right? This like excellent thing. And even still, if you show all of that excellence, I guess Will Smith also does this too. Not even, because it's not her mistake. She did not do this.
Will Smith didn't make a mistake.
I don't think Will Smith made a mistake either. I think his only mistake was that it was on national television. But
no, Chris needed that.
Chris needed that.
Because he wasn't listening behind the scenes, because he's been told this man to step off.
I mean, he needed to slap him. I'm just saying.
On national television, so everybody would get the message. We don't F with him around here.
Anyway, but you know what I mean? It's like this, like, she has spent this entire book, like, figuring out who she is, not really who she is, but figuring out what it means to be a magician in this world, figuring out what she wants, while also having her, like, North Star goal of figuring out what's happened to her brother. And she gets to this point now where she recently made a pretty big mistake and has, like, kind of come to terms with that, taken accountability, come to terms with it, and it's, like, figured out who she is and what she wants to be and who she wants to become, and lays that bare. And then this happens immediately and kind of undoes all of that work. And I just feel like,
I mean, we'll see if it does undo all that work, but
right.
this is how the chapter ends, but it definitely has the potential to. And like, obviously some folks, their like opinions weren't going to be changed regardless, but it's like, it's still terrible timing. And it's still like, again, you can let her just have this. Like, whoever the magician is, they were in the audience, like, or nearby. They heard it. Y'all could have just been like, you know what? Not today. I'm gonna come back.
Yeah, we have more time. Well, let's let the next person go.
Right.
We don't know if Dylan was the last one to present. I don't think he was. But, let a couple people present, and then we'll go back into our regular scheduled programming. You know,
exactly.
Give some space.
Give some breathing.
Let it breathe.
Breathing room.
Let it
breathe. That's all. Okay. MVP.
Amari, for everything I just said.
Same.
It's unanimous.
Showing them how much money they're leaving on the table, on top of just like the general bigotry. They're also
someone is in that crowd with dollar signs writing notes like,
let's come on.
Let me get the Yetis on the phone. Let me secure a location, and let's get this illusion palace of illusions going.
Come on.
You know, we can do it. We could do it like Disneyland. You could buy a yearly pass, a magic key with different like things. You know what I mean? We could do a one-off. We could make a traveling, whatever. Let's just secure the funding.
You know?
Dollar signs. All I see is signs. All I see is dollar signs.
All right. Benched?
I benched The Apprentice because of everything I just said. Like, I just feel like let it breathe. Give her some room. And like, also, I think we know that like the apprentices, from what we know, the apprentice's main goal is to get not Van Helsing, Moreau released, right? In exchange for Quentin and Maria, in exchange for whatever. Like, he wants to get Moreau released. Moreau's biggest thing, this is where I'm like, you lose sight of the forest for the trees, right? Is like showing the, I guess, supremacy of magicians, but that also comes from the fact that magicians have been put on the outskirts. So if you step back, Mr. Mrs. Apprentice, little apprentice punk, whoever you are, you would see that what Amari just did was to help your cause in helping to lessen the kind of stigma around magicians, to show that they can be impressive, but to do it in a way that doesn't terrify people, and get people on your side. So like, let it breathe. Give her that. Give some time, you know? So that's why I benched The Apprentice.
Word. I benched Director Van Helsing, for like, you know, being the worst. He's yet to find an opportunity to not be a trash bigot. And I'm glad that his little plan, I mean, at least his plan to not give Amari the space to do that backfired, but we still don't know what it is like. Yeah.
You'll enjoy this, Bayana, but I don't know if they really explain, like, if BB Alston really described what Van Helsing looks like, but when he was like, get her off the stage, I saw the, like, Michael Jackson and Ghost, like the neighbor one. That's who I saw. So now that's what Van Helsing looks like to me. Did he give him a name? Like, he's like, you know, like
he's Michael Jackson in a
white man suit. Like, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
I too benched Van Helsing. He literally heckled a 12-year-old. Like, he was like, get her off the stage. Like, she's a 12-year-old. Like, dude, like, what's not competing? He also sent minions and goons after her. Like, again, she's 12. Like, just too much. But in addition to Van Helsing, I also benched at least part of the audience. Because the part of the audience that was just like silent for it all, it was just like, for me, it's like y'all hate on Amari, and I'm hating on y'all. Like, y'all deserve the hate that y'all put into the world, and therefore I also hate. Like, you're gonna get that back. Like, you're gonna feel like the least you can do is applaud someone. Like, could you put on illusions? Could you make a laser light show that includes the Aurora Borealis? I don't think you can. So I think for just the fact that you would not be able to do it, just so a cute little golf clap would even work. But don't sit there and do nothing. We're not going to do that. Especially not to a 12-year-old. Like, really? Where's your self-esteem where you feel better for putting down a 12-year-old girl? Get it together.
Get it together.
Great. Thank y'all for listening. We will be back next week with chapter 29.
Wizard Team is brought to you by Black Nerds Create. If you want to keep up with our other content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Twitter at Black Nerds Create, at Yana Wrote It, at Robyn_Rambles, and at Porshèa. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Black Nerds Create, and subscribe to our monthly magic newsletter. And don't forget to rate and review this and all of our collective shows wherever you're getting your local podcast episodes.
Bye.
Bye.